Crash landing. The early morning sun cast long shadows over the rugged terrain of Kappa 5, a remote planet marked by its vast plains and towering rock formations. The human exploration team had been surveying the area for weeks, cataloguing plant life and mineral deposits without much incident. That is, until today. As Jack scanned the horizon with his binoculars, a bright streak cut across the sky. "Hey, did you guys see that?" he shouted, lowering the binoculars. From beside the rover, Lucia, the team's geologist, looked up. "See what?" "Something crashed over there." Jack pointed towards a distant smoky column rising from behind a hill. Without hesitation, the team piled into their two rovers, curiosity replacing their routine tasks. As they approached the site, the smell of burnt metal filled the air. The wreckage of what appeared to be an alien spacecraft was scattered across a wide area. "I've never seen anything like this," murmured Alex, the team's biologist, his eyes wide as he surveyed the twisted metal. "Let's spread out, check for survivors, but be careful," Jack instructed, taking charge as they fanned out around the crash site. Moving through the debris, Jack's heart raced. He stumbled upon a partially ejected cockpit pod. Inside, he found an alien girl, unconscious, her skin a pale blue, with luminescent markings that flickered weakly. Her chest contained a visible, dimly lit mechanical device, presumably her heart, struggling to function. "Lucia, Alex, over here. I need help," Jack called. Lucia rushed over, her medical kit ready. "What is it?" "An alien. She's alive but looks badly injured," Jack explained as they both knelt by the pod. As Lucia carefully checked the alien's vitals, Jack examined the heart device. Her heart. It's mechanical. Looks like it's failing. We need to stabilize it. Do we even know how? Alex joined them, his voice tinged with concern. "We have to try something." "Lucia, pass me the portable power modulator," Jack said, already digging through her kit. With delicate hands, Jack connected the modulator to the alien device. The heart flickered, stabilizing momentarily before flickering again. "It's not enough," Jack muttered, adjusting the settings. "Let me," Alex suggested, taking over the modulator as Jack held the alien's hand, trying to soothe her. The alien's eyes fluttered open, meeting Jack's. She spoke in a weak, garbled voice, her words unrecognizable but filled with fear. "It's okay, we're here to help," Jack reassured her, squeezing her hand gently. The device stabilized at last, the lights holding a steady glow. Lucia breathed a sigh of relief. "That should hold her for now, but we need to get her back to camp." They carefully moved her to the rover, Jack never leaving her side. As they drove back, he looked over at the alien, her breathing now more even. "You saved her, Jack," Lucia said, patting him on the shoulder. "We saved her," Jack corrected, glancing at his team. "Let's get her to the med bay and figure out what to do next. We've got a long day ahead of us." As the rover bumped along the rugged path, Jack watched the alien girl. The unknown of her world awaited them, but for now she was safe, and that was what mattered. His mind buzzed with questions about her origins, her people, and what her unexpected arrival meant for them all. Chapter 2. A delicate operation. Back at the base camp, the med bay was a flurry of activity as the team prepared to further stabilize the alien girl they had named Serena. The equipment beeped and whirred around them as they moved with a sense of urgency, knowing that every moment counted. "Have you ever seen technology like this?" Jack asked, motioning towards the mini-reactor heart that was now temporarily stabilized but far from repaired. "Nothing like this. It's way beyond what we have back on Earth," replied Dr. Haynes, the team's lead medical officer, as he adjusted his glasses and peered closely at the alien device. "We need to integrate some of our tech to keep it running. Any ideas?" Jack continued, looking from Dr. Haynes to Mike, the electrical engineer who had just joined them. Mike nodded, examining the reactor. I think we can rig a bypass using a biocompatible circuit. It might just bridge the gap between her tech and ours temporarily. Let's get to work then. Time isn't on our side, Dr. Haynes declared. In the next few hours, the med bay transformed into a makeshift engineering lab. Jack and Mike worked together, carefully connecting Earth technology with alien craftsmanship. Dr. Haynes monitored Serina's vital signs, providing crucial feedback on how the alien tech responded to their adjustments. "How's it holding up?" Jack asked, wiping sweat from his brow as he tightened a connection. "It's stable for now, but it's a temporary fix. We need to understand her system better to create a long-term solution," Mike replied, checking the readings on his multimeter. Serina stirred, her eyes fluttering open. "Where am I?" she whispered, her voice weak but filled with a haunting melody. "You're safe," Jack reassured her, offering a smile. "We're just trying to fix your heart." "My heart." Serina touched the device protruding from her chest, her expression a mix of confusion and awe. "You are helping me?" "Yes, we're doing our best. Can you tell us anything about how to repair it?" Dr. Haynes asked gently, stepping closer. Serina paused, considering their words. "It is complex, made to last a lifetime. I have schematics in my ship, if they survived the crash." "That's something," Mike chimed in. "If we could get those schematics, it might give us a better shot at a permanent fix." "Let's plan a trip back to the crash site tomorrow," Jack decided. "For now, Serina, you should rest." As Serina nodded and closed her eyes, the men stepped away from the bedside, gathering around a digital table strewn with tools and half-sketched diagrams. "We're in over our heads, aren't we?" Mike asked the group, though his tone was not entirely pessimistic. "Maybe," Jack admitted, his eyes fixed on the sleeping figure of Serina. "But we're not backing down. Let's prepare for tomorrow. We have a lot to do." The rest of the evening was spent planning their return to the crash site. Maps were drawn, and equipment lists were checked twice. The atmosphere was tense but hopeful as they pieced together their strategy. Later, as the camp settled down for the night, Jack lingered by Serina's side a moment longer, watching her breathe steadily. The connection they had begun to forge, bridging two wildly different worlds, felt like the first step toward something greater than any of them had imagined. As he finally turned to leave, he felt a renewed determination to solve the mystery of her heart, not just for her survival, but for the potential bridge it could form between their peoples. Chapter 3. Learning to Communicate. The morning light spilled over the base camp as Jack, Mike, and Dr. Haynes prepared for their trip back to the crash site. Equipped with scanners, tools, and a sense of cautious optimism, they hoped to retrieve the schematic Serina had mentioned. Before they left, Jack checked in on Serina, who was now sitting up in her makeshift bed, looking more alert. "Good morning," Jack greeted. "We're heading back to your ship. Is there anything specific we should look for?" "Thank you," Serina replied, her voice stronger. "In the cockpit, under the main console. A secure storage. It should have survived the crash." "Got it," Jack noted, then hesitated a moment. "How are you feeling today?" "Better, thanks to you and your friends," Serina said, managing a small smile. Jack smiled back and turned to join the others, who were already loading up the rover. "Everything's ready. Let's get those schematics," Mike announced, as they all climbed aboard. The journey back to the crash site was quicker than the first, their path now familiar. They arrived to find the site just as they had left it, with the wreckage solemnly awaiting them under the alien sun. Jack led the way to the cockpit, carefully maneuvering through the debris. Following Serina's instructions, he found the secure storage compartment. With a bit of effort, it popped open, revealing a metallic cylinder with alien script. "This has to be it," Jack said, handing it to Mike. "Let's hope it gives us what we need," Mike replied, tucking the cylinder safely into his bag. Back at the base, they eagerly presented the cylinder to Serena, who instructed them on how to access the data. "As I thought, it requires a biometric unlock." "May I?" Serena asked, extending a shaky hand. "Of course," Dr. Haynes said, handing her the device. With a touch, the cylinder whirred to life, projecting schematics and diagrams into the air. The complexity of the design was breathtaking. "Amazing," Dr. Haynes muttered, examining the floating blueprints. "Can you make any sense of this?" Jack asked Serena, peering over her shoulder. "Some," she replied. "Let me guide you through it." For the rest of the afternoon, Serena became the teacher, explaining her technology's nuances with an impressive knowledge that belied her frail appearance. Jack and Mike listened intently, asking questions and taking notes, while Dr. Haynes made adjustments to their medical equipment based on her instructions. "The integration of these two systems here," Serena pointed at a diagram, "is critical for the function of the reactor. Without harmony between them, the reactor will fail." "Harmony, huh?" Mike mused. "I like the sound of that. It's more than just machinery, isn't it?" Jack asked, looking at Serena with newfound respect. "Yes, it's about balance and understanding, much like us here now," Serena said, meeting his gaze. As the day turned into evening, the group had not only learned about alien technology, but had also found a deeper connection with Serena. They laughed and shared stories from their worlds, finding common ground despite their differences. "We'll start first thing tomorrow on integrating what we've learned into the medical setup," Dr. Haynes decided. "Serena, you've been an incredible help." "Thank you, all of you, for not giving up on me," Serena expressed, her eyes reflecting a mix of gratitude and hope. That night, as the camp settled down, Jack couldn't help but feel that they were on the brink of something extraordinary. Not only were they on the cusp of saving a life, but they were also bridging worlds in a way that none of them had ever imagined. This mission, he realized, was about much more than exploration. It was about connection. Chapter 4. The Mini-Reactor Mystery. The following morning, the base camp buzzed with a palpable excitement as the team prepared to tackle the integration of human and alien technology. The lab was a hive of activity with Jack, Mike, and Dr. Haynes at the center, surrounded by equipment both familiar and alien. "All right, let's go over this one more time," Jack said, looking at the schematics displayed on a large screen. "Serena, you mentioned the synchronization of the flux modulator with the pulse regulator is crucial, right?" "Yes," Serena nodded, adjusting the translator device around her neck. "The flux modulator's frequency must match the pulse regulator exactly, or the reactor will not stabilize." Mike, who had been tinkling with a set of wires and circuits, chimed in. "I think we can use a phase adjuster to fine-tune the frequencies. It's tricky but doable." "Good. Mike, you handle the phase adjuster. Dr. Haynes, how's the biocompatibility looking?" Jack asked, glancing towards the doctor, who was examining a holographic projection of the mini-reactor. "We're in good shape," Dr. Haynes replied. "The modifications we made yesterday should prevent any rejection by Serena's body. With a plan in place, they got to work." Serena guided them through each step, her knowledge of the reactor proving invaluable. Jack handled the physical assembly, his hands steady despite the high stakes, while Mike adjusted the settings on the phase adjuster, his brow furrowed in concentration. "How are we looking, Mike?" Jack asked after a tense hour of adjustments. "Just a minute." "And there," Mike said finally, a smile breaking over his face as the readings on his instrument stabilized. "I think we got it." "Let's do a trial run," suggested Jack, turning to Serena. "Are you ready?" Serena nodded, her face calm but her eyes betraying her nervousness. Jack activated the device, and the mini-reactor began to hum softly. The lights on the monitoring equipment flickered, then steadied. "It's working," Dr. Haynes exclaimed, checking the vitals on his screen. "The heart is beating at a normal rate, and all signs are stable." "Fantastic work, everyone," Jack said, clapping Mike on the back. "Serena, how do you feel?" "Better than I have in a long time," she replied, her voice filled with relief. With the reactor now stable, the team took a moment to celebrate their success. They gathered around the lab's small dining area, sharing a meal and lively conversation. "So, Serena, what's your planet like?" Dr. Haynes asked, genuinely curious. "It's very different from here. Larger cities, more technology. But we have forests and oceans too, not unlike your Earth," Serena described, her eyes lighting up as she spoke of her home. "I hope you can show it to us one day," Mike said, raising his cup in a toast. "That would be wonderful," Serena smiled, clinking her cup with his. As the evening drew on, Jack felt a sense of accomplishment, but also a deep curiosity about the universe that was now slightly more within reach thanks to Serena. The challenges they faced together had brought them closer, not just as a team, but as friends from worlds apart. "Tomorrow, we'll prepare a detailed report. I think the integration technique could be revolutionary," Jack mused aloud. "Yes, and we should consider further research collaborations," Dr. Haynes added. "Who knows what else we can learn from each other?" As they cleaned up, Jack lingered behind, his thoughts drifting to the future. The success of today was a small step in the grand scheme of things, but it felt like the beginning of a new chapter, not just for him or Serena, but for all of humanity. Chapter 5. Against the Odds. The team gathered early in the lab, eager to continue refining their work on Serena's mini-reactor. Though their initial fixes had stabilized her condition, everyone knew it was only temporary. If they wanted to ensure her long-term survival, they would need to implement a permanent solution, one that fully integrated their technological and medical expertise. Jack leaned over the table where the reactor schematics hovered in mid-air, adjusting the image's scale with a swipe. "Serena, could you explain this segment again?" he asked, pointing to a cluster of lines and nodes that seemed more like art than engineering. Serena, seated nearby with a portable console, nodded. "These are the energy conduits. They must be aligned perfectly. If even one is out of place, the power flow destabilizes. You'll see a cascade of failures." Mike, who had been soldering a prototype interface, looked up. "So we can't just adapt our own circuits to fit. We need to make sure everything matches her original specifications." "Exactly," Serena confirmed. "Our systems are sensitive, precise. You've done well so far, but this final step requires the same level of precision." Dr. Haynes joined them, rubbing his hands together. "Sounds like we're going to need to calibrate everything down to the microvolt." "Pretty much," Jack replied, shooting Mike a grin. "I hope you're ready for some fine-tuning." "Wouldn't have it any other way," Mike said with a chuckle. "What's the next step?" Serena leaned forward, her glow faint but steady. "You'll need to replicate the core's containment structure. Without that, the reactor will overload. I can guide you through the process, but we'll need materials that can withstand high-energy plasma flows." Jack glanced at Mike. "How's our supply of reinforced alloys?" "Got a shipment 2 weeks ago," Mike answered. "Should be enough to get the job done." "Perfect," Jack said. "Let's get started." The hours that followed were a whirlwind of collaboration. Jack worked side by side with Mike on the containment structure, their movements synchronized as if they'd been partners for years. Dr. Haynes oversaw the medical monitoring, ensuring Serena's condition remained stable as they worked. Serena, despite her weakened state, continued to provide insights, her instructions clear and precise. "Hand me the thermal scanner," Jack said, reaching out. Mike passed it to him without missing a beat. "What's it reading?" Jack squinted at the display. "Temperatures holding steady. Looks like the new casing is doing its job." "That's what I like to hear," Mike said with a grin. "Let's secure it and move on to the next layer." As they worked, Serena spoke up. "Jack, you've mentioned Earth's cities. What are they like?" Jack paused, considering her question. "They're busy. Tall buildings, crowded streets, people always in a hurry. But there are quiet places too. Parks, forests, oceans. It's a mix of chaos and calm." Serena smiled faintly. "It sounds beautiful. I hope to see it someday." "You will," Jack assured her. "Once we get you back on your feet, we'll show you around." "Don't forget about the food," Mike chimed in. "She has to try pizza." Serena tilted her head. "Pizza? You'll love it," Mike said confidently. The light-hearted moment helped ease the tension in the room, but it was short-lived. As they neared completion of the containment structure, an unexpected alarm blared from one of the monitoring stations. "What's going on?" Dr. Haynes rushed to the console, scanning the readings. "Her vitals are fluctuating." Serena winced, clutching her chest. "The reactor. It's destabilizing. You need to stabilize it now." Jack and Mike exchanged a glance. "Quick, reinforce the core matrix," Jack ordered, grabbing the necessary tools. "On it," Mike replied, his hands moving quickly over the equipment. Dr. Haynes adjusted Serena's monitoring setup, administering a stabilizer to keep her comfortable. "I'll keep her steady. Just finish the adjustments." For several tense minutes, the room was filled with the sound of whirring tools and hurried instructions. Jack and Mike worked in tandem, their focus unshakable. Finally, the reactor's hum evened out, and the alarms fell silent. Serena let out a shaky breath. "That was close." "Too close," Jack muttered, wiping his brow. "But we got it." Dr. Haynes nodded, his shoulders relaxing. "Vitals are stable again. Good work, all of you." The team allowed themselves a moment of relief before returning to the task at hand. They knew they were not finished yet. Each adjustment brought them closer to a permanent fix, but the process was delicate, requiring both technical skill and teamwork. "We'll get this done," Jack said, looking at Serena. "No matter what it takes." Serena met his gaze, her eyes filled with quiet determination. "I believe you, Jack." With renewed focus, the team pressed on, determined to see their mission through. They knew the odds were against them, but together they had what it took to prevail. Chapter 6: Breakthrough and Setback. The lab was buzzing with anticipation. Jack, Mike, Dr. Haynes, and Serena gathered around the diagnostic station where their prototype, an integrated blend of human and alien technology, was finally ready for a full test. After days of detailed adjustments, countless recalibrations, and hours of exhausting effort, this was the moment they had been waiting for. Jack looked to Serena. "This is it. If this works, we'll have a permanent fix for your reactor." Serena, seated next to Dr. Haynes, nodded. "Thank you all for everything. I'm ready." Mike tapped on his console, bringing up the prototype's diagnostics. "All systems are stable on my end. The core containment structure is holding steady." Jack adjusted a few final settings on the main control panel. "Dr. Haynes, how's her baseline? Any fluctuations?" Dr. Haynes shook his head, his eyes on Serena's vital signs. "She's steady. No changes." "All right then," Jack said, taking a breath. Starting the reactor in 3, 2, 1. The room filled with a soft hum as the prototype came to life. The holographic display showed a steady flow of energy coursing through the device, the levels perfectly balanced. Serina's reactor glowed brighter, the new core matrix syncing seamlessly with the existing alien tech. "Readings look good," Mike reported. "Everything's stable." Jack nodded, his expression cautiously optimistic. "Serina, how do you feel?" Serina placed a hand over her chest, a small smile breaking across her face. "It's working. I can feel it." The team broke into relieved smiles. Dr. Haynes patted Jack on the back. "Nice job, everyone. This might actually—" Before he could finish, the lights flickered, and a warning tone filled the room. Jack spun toward the console. "What just happened?" "Energy spike," Mike said, his fingers flying over the controls. "Something's interfering with the flow." "Shut it down," Dr. Haynes called out, moving to Serina's side. "Her vitals are spiking." Jack frantically tapped at his console, but the reactor core was no longer responding. The energy levels on the display climbed higher, the once stable flow now chaotic. "It's not shutting down. Manually disconnect the interface," Mike yelled, reaching for the emergency power cutoff. Jack grabbed a tool and moved to the prototype, yanking out a main cable. The room went dark for a moment as the prototype's hum died out. The warning tone ceased, and all that remained was the sound of their labored breathing. Dr. Haynes checked Serina's vitals. "She's okay, but her reactor's back to unstable. We're going to need to regroup." "What happened?" Jack demanded, looking at Mike. "I thought we had it under control." Mike threw up his hands. "So did I." The containment structure held, but the energy transfer system didn't handle the load. "Maybe we need to rethink the synchronization process," Dr. Haynes suggested. "If the components aren't perfectly aligned, the system destabilizes under full power." Serina sat up slowly. "I can help. The schematics have advanced diagnostics. I didn't mention them before because they require my input to activate. If we use them, we might find what's causing the interference." Jack looked at her with a mix of frustration and relief. "If there's more data to work with, let's use it. We can't afford another failure like this." Mike nodded. "All right. Serina, show us what you've got." The rest of the day was spent reviewing the advanced diagnostics. Serina guided them through the intricate systems of her technology, revealing layers of complexity they hadn't yet uncovered. Jack and Mike worked tirelessly to integrate this new information, recalibrating the synchronization protocols and adjusting the core interface design. By nightfall, the team was exhausted but determined. They had come so close, and despite the setback, they knew the answer was within reach. Jack leaned against the console, looking at his tired teammates and at Serina, who was still strong despite everything she had been through. "We're going to get it right," Jack said firmly. "We're not giving up now." Serina met his eyes, her expression unwavering. "I believe you, Jack." The setback had shaken them, but it had also pushed them to dig deeper, to work harder. They would not let this failure be the end. They would find a way to stabilize her heart for good. Chapter 7. The Power of Unity. After the previous day's sudden setback, the lab was filled with a renewed sense of purpose. Jack, Mike, Dr. Haynes, and Serina gathered around the schematics once more, determined to learn from the failure and finally stabilize her reactor for good. Jack tapped the console, magnifying a particularly intricate section of the diagram. "Here's where we lost control." The energy spike started at this junction, then spiraled through the entire system. Serina leaned closer, her eyes scanning the projection. I think the issue lies in this node. The flow here must be precisely timed, but our design introduced a delay. It threw the whole cycle off. Mike crossed his arms, frowning. A delay. So, what do we need to do? Overclock the core. Not quite, Serena replied. You need to match the timing perfectly. It's not about speed. It's about harmony. All right, Jack said, rolling up his sleeves. Let's recalibrate the interface. Mike, you handle the timing modules. I'll adjust the core stabilization settings. Dr. Haynes, keep monitoring her vitals to make sure nothing goes haywire again. Dr. Haynes nodded, stepping over to the medical console. Got it. I'll alert you the moment I see any fluctuations. The group set to work. Mike carefully dismantled the timing modules, his steady hands making microscopic adjustments. Jack, at the main control station, fine-tuned the core stabilization routines, ensuring the reactor's energy would flow smoothly. Serena remained close, offering guidance as they navigated the complexities of her alien technology. Okay, I've got the timing modules resynced, Mike said after what felt like hours. Jack, are you ready to integrate these settings? Jack gave a thumbs up. Let's do it. The integration was delicate. Each step had to be perfect, with no room for error. As they worked, Serena began to describe more about her people's philosophy of technology, a philosophy centered on balance, not dominance. Her words provided a quiet background to their meticulous efforts. My people see technology as part of life, not separate from it, Serena explained. When we create something, it must complement the natural order. That's why your reactor is so different from anything we've seen, Jack replied. It's not just a machine. It's alive in a way. Exactly, Serena said. And now you're learning to see it as we do. That's why I trust you to succeed. Finally, after what seemed like a lifetime, all the adjustments were in place. Jack stepped back from the console, wiping his hands on his shirt. All right, it's time. Mike, are we good? Mike nodded. Everything's green on my end. Dr. Haynes? Jack asked, looking to the doctor. Vitals are steady, Dr. Haynes confirmed. No spikes. She's ready. Jack turned to Serena. Okay, let's give this another shot. Are you ready? Serena met his gaze, her expression calm but determined. Yes. Jack initiated the system. The lab lights dimmed slightly as the reactor came to life. Everyone held their breath as the holographic display filled with data. This time, the energy flow remained stable. No spikes. No alarms. The reactor's gentle hum was even and smooth. It's holding, Dr. Haynes said quietly, his voice filled with cautious optimism. Vitals are steady. Serena placed her hand over her chest, her eyes widening. It feels right. Like it's part of me again. Jack glanced at Mike, who was grinning from ear to ear. We did it, Jack said, a small smile spreading across his face. It's working. As the realization sank in, the group let out a collective sigh of relief. Jack leaned on the console, feeling the weight of days of effort finally lifting from his shoulders. Serena, you're going to be okay now. Thanks to all of you, she replied, her voice filled with gratitude. I don't have words to express how much this means. Well, I think I speak for all of us when I say it means a lot to us, too, Mike said. We just made history here. Dr. Haynes chuckled. I think that's an understatement. They spent the next hour triple-checking the reactor's readings, ensuring that every component was functioning as intended. When they were certain everything was stable, they finally allowed themselves to relax. So, what's next? Jack asked, looking around at his teammates. "We'll keep monitoring her condition," Dr. Haynes said. "But I'd say our next step is documenting this breakthrough. We need to share what we've learned. And maybe, one day, we'll take Serena home," Mike added. "I'd like to see the place that inspired all this." Serena smiled warmly. "I'd be honored to show you." As they cleaned up the lab and powered down their equipment, Jack felt a sense of fulfillment he hadn't known before. They had faced incredible challenges, but they had come through together. In this small lab, with a team of dedicated individuals and an alien girl who had become a friend, they had done something extraordinary. Jack looked at Serena, who was now standing a bit taller, her eyes bright with a newfound strength. "We make a good team," he said. "Yes," Serena replied, her voice soft but firm. "We do." Chapter 8. A New Dawn. Morning sunlight poured through the windows of the lab, illuminating the scattered tools and consoles that had been left behind after their long night of work. Jack and Mike sat at the main workstation, reviewing the final diagnostic report. The numbers confirmed what they had hoped for. Serena's reactor was not only stable but performing at peak efficiency. "I can't believe we pulled it off," Mike said, leaning back in his chair. "It's not just a fix. It's an improvement." Jack smiled tiredly, running a hand through his hair. "I guess all those late nights paid off. How's she doing, Haynes?" Dr. Haynes, standing near Serena's recovery bed, looked up from his tablet. "She's been resting peacefully. Her vitals are rock solid. Honestly, it's like she was never injured." From her bed, Serena stirred, sitting up slowly. The soft glow from her chest now had a steady, even rhythm. She looked toward the three men and gave a small, grateful smile. "Good morning," Serena said, her voice stronger than they'd ever heard it. "Is it done?" "It's done," Jack confirmed, walking over to her. "The reactor is fully integrated, and it's performing better than we could have hoped." Mike joined him, grinning. "You're officially upgraded." Serena chuckled softly, then touched her chest, as if feeling the quiet power of the reactor. "I can't thank you enough. I never thought this would be possible." "It's what we do," Jack said, his tone warm. "We're just glad you're okay." As Serena stood, she moved with a grace they hadn't seen before. Her posture was strong, her steps confident. She seemed almost radiant, not just because of the reactor's glow, but because of the relief and renewed energy that now filled her. "I've been thinking," Serena began, looking at each of them in turn, "about what comes next. I still have a mission to complete, messages to deliver, alliances to strengthen. But I don't want to say goodbye." Dr. Haynes smiled. "No one said you had to leave right away. You're part of this team now." Mike nodded in agreement. "Yeah, stick around a bit longer. We've got plenty to learn from each other." Serena's expression softened. "You've already learned so much, and you've taught me about your world, your ingenuity, your willingness to adapt. I feel connected to all of you." Jack took a step closer. "It goes both ways. You've shown us a different way to think about technology, about working together. I think we've barely scratched the surface of what we can achieve." They spent the rest of the morning going over their findings. Serena provided insights into the advanced diagnostics, helping them understand the intricacies of her people's designs. Jack and Mike made notes, already thinking of ways to apply what they'd learned to other projects. The lab buzzed with excitement as new ideas emerged. When they finally stepped outside for a break, the view from the base was breathtaking. The alien landscape, with its vast plains and towering rock formations, seemed less foreign now. It felt almost like home. "You know," Mike said, leaning against the railing of the observation deck, "I never thought we'd end up working side by side with someone from another world." But here we are. Jack chuckled. It's funny how things turn out. A few weeks ago, we were just a team of explorers. Now well, I'm not even sure what to call us. Friends, Serena said simply, joining them on the deck. You've become my friends. The three men exchanged glances, then nodded. It felt right. As they stood there, the sun rising higher in the sky, Jack looked toward the horizon. Serena, when you're ready to continue your mission, we'll support you however we can. Whether that means helping with repairs, providing resources, or just staying in touch, you're not alone. Serena's smile grew. I'll hold you to that. They spent the rest of the day preparing reports, organizing their data, and discussing how their breakthrough could benefit both humans and Serena's people. It wasn't about sharing every secret or revealing every detail, but about building trust and mutual understanding. They knew they were at the beginning of something much larger than themselves. That evening, as the sun set and the sky filled with stars, the team gathered one last time in the common area. They shared stories, jokes, and plans for the future. It wasn't a farewell, just a pause in the journey. They all knew there were more challenges ahead, but they also knew they could face them together. For now, they would celebrate what they had accomplished, confident that this was only the beginning of a new chapter in human and alien cooperation. And as they raised their glasses in a quiet toast, the room filled with a sense of connection and possibility, stretching far beyond the boundaries of their world.